Good evening. Thanks for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Shereen Bhan. The headlines tonight. Stock markets climbed to a 5-month high. The Sensex and the Nifty gained 1% each, ending the week with nearly 2% gains. The FMCG index crosses the 50,000 mark, hitting a record high, gained nearly 14% so far this year. Strong volume growth across segments drives a 31% jump in automaker M&M's fourth quarter revenues, but net profit misses the mark. Sun Pharma's numbers meet street expectations. Profit comes in at nearly 2,000 crore rupees. The Jalan Kalrock consortium gets 3 more months to pay Jets lenders and take over the defunct airline. The NCLAT restrains lenders from invoking bank guarantees provided by the consortium in the interim. Grounded airline Go First extends flight cancellations till the 28th of May, citing operational challenges. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 a quick revival looks challenging as engine provider Pratt & Whitney has told a Delaware court it has no engines to give to the airline. Zee gets some relief at the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. The NCLT order directing the stock exchanges to review the NOC granted to the proposed Zee-Sony merger is set aside for violating principles of natural justice. The Appellate Tribunal instructs the NCLT to hear Zee's defense before deciding on the matter. India gears up for the G20 Leaders Summit in September under its presidency. The chief coordinator Harsh Shringla tells CNBC-TV18 they expect up to 12,000 foreign delegates, from taking up all available hotel rooms to creating corridors for smooth passage. Preparations underway. Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the new Parliament building on Sunday. 21 opposition parties, including the Congress, DMK and Trinamool, boycott the launch. Oppose the sidelining of President Murmu. Non-NDA parties like the Biju Janata Dal, BSP, YSR, Congress and TDP will attend. The Manipur government relaxes curfews in parts of the state for 7 hours. New rules allow people to step out of their residences but only to buy essential items. The Home Minister will visit the state next week to try and resolve the ongoing ethnic crisis. Online gaming accounts see a massive surge. Dream 11 sees its user base grow from 5 crores in 2019 to 16 crores in 2023. Maharashtra's farmers wait for compensation even 3 months after unseasonal rains damaged their rabi crop. Maharashtra government blames the rains for the delay in surveys, promises payment soon. A special report from Nasik. Well, let's start by giving you a snapshot of the day's trading action. The stock markets have hit a 5-month high, with the Sensex gaining over 1% over the day and the Nifty closing just shy of 18,500. Mid-cap stocks also joined the party, and this is the second consecutive day of gains for the indices, helping the markets end in the green for the week as well. Banks, though, continue to underperform. We saw some strong weekly gains in the IT and pharma sectors today. Now, American independent investment bank and financial services company Jefferies is upbeat about the India story. Its latest report says that with India's structural story being largely intact, it will only be a matter of time before the Sensex reaches the 100,000 number. Jefferies goes on to say that the reasons for this hypothesis are manifold. Key among them is that earnings growth is catching up to valuations, meaning India is not as expensive as it was. Jefferies adds that if RBI's monetary tightening cycle ends, with rate cuts coming either later this year or next year, there is no obvious near-term trigger for a further valuation derating. The other reason for its optimism on India is that corporate debt-to-equity ratios for large listed companies has slipped to 0.6 times. That is the lowest that we've seen since FY06. The big variable, Jefferies says, will be the general elections next year. But on this front, Jefferies points out that despite the BJP's recent loss in Karnataka, the overwhelming view is that the BJP government will be re-elected, though the margin of victory may be a little lower. Why? Because national elections are won or lost on large issues, and the dramatic changes spearheaded by the current dispensation, in Jefferies' view, over the last 10 years have been, and I quote, phenomenal. Now, the FMCG index has been the standout sectoral performance of the year so far. The index has hit a record high, surging 14% this year. It's also outperforming the benchmark Nifty in the bargain. Mangalam joins us now with more on what's making the sector tick. Mangalam, take us through the heavy hitters in the FMCG sector.
It's been a big mover. If you just take a look at it in this year itself, we haven't even completed 2023. The FMCG index is rallied by about 14%. This compares with the Nifty at around 2% itself. In the last 12 months too, we've seen the FMCG index rally about 32%. This compares with the Nifty at 13%. In fact, in the last 15 years, there have been only 2 occasions where the FMCG index has given negative returns. So it was once in FY19 and the other one was FY9. Of course, FY9 had the Lehman crisis itself. Key constituents of the FMCG index, the top 2 batsmen are always ITC and HUL, depending on who's outperforming at what point in time. So HUL currently is at the second spot with 22% weight, ITC 33% weight, Nestle 7.8%, Britannia 6.5%. But Varun Beverages has been the standout performer from the lower order batsmen as well, doing extremely well. From the 52-week low, while the FMCG index is up 40%, ITC is the key contributor, 72% rally from its 52-week low, whereas HUL by its sheer weight, despite a 26% rally, has been among the big contributors, and Varun Beverages has come out and played the knockout game at towards the dying hours of the innings. So 145% jump from its 52-week low on Varun Beverages itself. From a point-to-point contribution from its 52-week low, the FMCG index has rallied about 13,650 points. More than 50% of the gains coming in from ITC, 7,450 points, HUL 2,100 points, and we have Varun Beverages giving it 1,200 points as well. So far, the results have been not bad. In fact, the management commentary has been good as well. They're talking about gradual recovery in rural demand. They're talking about margin expansion as well as raw material inflation tempers. And at the same time, they're talking about drastic changes in the way the companies are looking at distribution, production, and digital. So these are growth areas for the company. While the FMCG index has been a wealth creator in a lot of people's portfolios, remember, wealth creators don't come for cheap. But currently, by virtue of the growth prospects that we see, we have the FMCG index at a not very big premium to their 10-year average, barring ITC, which is trading at a mild premium to their 10-year average. All the other stocks are very close to the 10-year average multiples itself.
Mangalam, many thanks. Now, the NCLAT has given the Jalan Kalrock Consortium 3 more months to pay lenders of Jet Airways as per the approved resolution plan. Now, if you remember, the original deadline for payment was the 15th of May. The latest NCLAT order also restrains the airline's lenders from invoking bank guarantees that were provided by the consortium. And speaking of grounded airlines whose revival plan is facing challenges, Go First has extended suspension of its flight operations to the 28th of May. CNBC-TV18 learns that the airline's revival looks tricky since there is still no clarity on the engine supplier Pratt & Whitney being able to deliver the engines. Madiha standing by now with the details. Madiha, what is the latest? What has Pratt & Whitney told a court in Delaware? And what does that potentially mean for Go First's revival plan?
Well, lack of engine is what brought the airline down, and now Pratt & Whitney is reportedly refusing to provide engines to the airline, putting its relaunch plan into jeopardy. The Reuters report says that Pratt & Whitney, during the hearing in the Delaware court, said that there are no engines available to be sent to Go First. It also said that Go First has no right on the engines as the leases have been terminated. Remember, Go First had moved the Delaware court seeking to enforce the arbitration award that it won in the Singapore Arbitration Center. The award had directed Pratt & Whitney to supply the engines to Go First. While the court is yet to pass any ruling in the matter, airline executives and aviation experts tell me that Go First will also need to show availability of aircraft to get this award enforced, as engines without aircraft won't serve any purpose. Remember, NCLAT had asked lessors to approach NCLT for termination of leases, and the lessors are likely to do so unless they get pending dues from the airline and assurance on future payments. So all this boils down to the airline having adequate capital if it wants to relaunch operations. Experts I spoke to say the airline will need at least 150 crores a month, even if it starts operations with 5 to 7 aircraft. Whether it will manage to secure the required funding is something we will watch out for.
Madiha, many thanks. And we're not done with aviation. Around 170 Indigo employees have gone on strike at the Mumbai airport. The airline says it was aware of the matter, adding that the dialogue between management and staff is underway. Indigo also maintained that operations remain unaffected. Zee Entertainment has got some relief from the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal. The appellate court has set aside the NCLT order which directed the stock exchanges to review the no objection certificate granted to the proposed Zee-Sony merger. Ashmit standing by to take us through that order. What are the grounds that the NCLT order has been set aside on, and what happens next now, Ashmit?
Well, relief coming in for the Sony-Zee merger. The NCLT order of May 11th, which had directed the exchanges to revisit their approval for this merger, has now been set aside by the Appellate Tribunal or the NCLAT. Now, at the heart of the issue is a SEBI order of April 25th, whereby there were some adverse findings on financial mismanagement by a sister concern of Zee. And basis that, the NCLT had directed the exchanges that there is a need to revisit the NOC that had been granted. Now, Zee challenged that before the Appellate Tribunal, the NCLAT. Zee argued that they've managed to secure all necessary statutory approvals, and importantly, they argued that they were not given a hearing before the NCLT directed the exchanges. Now, that is an argument that struck home. The Appellate Tribunal held that this is a clear case of violation of principles of natural justice, that Zee was not given an opportunity for hearing, that the least that could have been done by the tribunal was to give them a fair hearing. So with that, the NCLT order of May 11th has now been set aside, but the issue does not end. The issue has now been transported back by the Appellate Tribunal to the NCLT. So the question mark still remains. The only difference now is that while considering that SEBI order of April 25th, Zee will have to be given a fair hearing. That is clearly recorded as a part of the order. What is not recorded in the order of the Appellate Tribunal is a timeline. No timeline has been given to the NCLT to either expeditiously hear or to hear it within a certain time frame. So that question mark also remains. But that, of course, is for a later date. For now, relief coming in for the Sony-Zee merger. That NCLT order, which was a bottleneck for this merger, has been set aside by the Appellate Tribunal.
Ashmit, many thanks for joining us. India is gearing up for the G20 Leaders Summit in September. Speaking to CNBC-TV18, Chief Coordinator Harsh Shringla said the government expects up to 12,000 foreign delegates. Here's more on the preparations for the G20 ministerial.
Logistically, it is a fairly daunting, I would say, challenge to host 40-plus delegations of the highest level possible. We also expect between 8,000 and 12,000 foreign visitors to come into Delhi at that time. Clearly, we will have to use as much of the hotel space that is available in the NCR region as possible. We'll also have to create corridors to enable, these carcades of the heads of state and government to come into the different venues of the G20 meeting. So it needs a lot of planning, a lot of organization, and a lot of logistical calibration well in advance of the summit. But you can be sure that we are gearing up, and our different partners, I would say, parts of the government that are working on the summit are absolutely geared up for this important event.
Preparations underway for the G20 ministerial. DMAT and gaming accounts have both seen a surge in 2023. However, Dream11's 16 crore users this year has surpassed the 11 crore DMAT accounts opened. So why are people betting on gaming platforms over DMAT? Nigel D'Souza is here with some key numbers. Nigel.
August 2022, we were celebrating that we have 10 crore DMAT accounts. Now, that number has moved up to around 11.4 crore as per the last number that I checked. And that growth has been quite steady, right? We're quite happy about that. 3.5 crore moves to around 11.4 crore odd. But I'll tell you what, we're in third place. In terms of DMAT accounts, if you compare it with crypto users and you compare it with Dream11 users. Just pull the next chart up for you on the screen. Dream11 users, by the way, are at around 16 crore odd. These are the updated numbers that I've got. And in fact, my buddy on Twitter, Aditya Kondavar, he pointed some of this data out, but this is the updated data that I put up for you on the screen. And, if you're looking at the number of DMAT accounts and you compare it with the Dream11 as well, both of them are up by 3 times if you compare it from 2019. But Dream11 has come on a bigger base. They were close to around 5 crore odd. That's at around 16 crore as we speak. And just take a look at the surge in the Dream11 accounts. They were just around, 3 lakh odd. So they're up 530 times, in the last 8 years or so, from around 3 lakh all the way to around 16 crore odd. What could be the probable reasons? Why is there such a big surge in terms of users on Dream11? Well, I did a bit of a check, with friends, and Also, I just said let's put on a few points. We have the Insta Reels, right? Instant gratification is something that people look forward to. You get the result on that day itself when you play these fantasy games. When you invest in the stock market, it could take longer durations of time. So maybe instant gratification for the Instagram Reel generation. Also, there's a greater fun quotient out here, right? Games are obviously more fun than numbers, than financials, than profit and loss accounts as well. Simple reason could be everyone wants to get rich quickly, but that's debatable actually. Gamification is something that people have been focusing on, and that has immense potentially both globally as well as in India out here. When you're looking at equity markets, hardcore research is what you're looking for. Now, one factor that could play out here is out of the 16 crore users, all of them may not be unique, as we point out with even demat account holders, and maybe all of them are not wagers. There could be a large proportion of that are non-wagers, which essentially means you're playing, but money is not involved out there. Just forming your own group, you're forming a group which only your group can play, you're not interacting with the others. So that could be another factor out there, and they are known as non-wagers when money is not involved. And smoother account opening procedures. You can open your account with an email ID, I understand, while when you open a demat account, obviously, there are KYC norms as well. So short point is, yes, number of demat accounts have crossed more than 11 crore accounts, but guess what? Dream 11 has grown at a faster clip as well.
Well, it certainly has, and it's a perfect heads up as we head into the IPL finale up on Sunday. Nigel, many thanks for joining us. We will head into a break, but up next, Maharashtra's farmers wait for their compensation even 3 months after unseasonal rains damaged the Rabi crop. A special report from Nasik when we return. Well, the heart of Indian democracy will officially get a new address on Sunday. Prime Minister Modi will inaugurate the new parliament building and will install the Sengol or the sceptre from Tamil Nadu, which was received by India's first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. The building, which is triangular in shape, will house over 1,200 members. It has the capacity to house over 1,200 members. 21 opposition parties, including the Congress, TMC, DMK, have said that they will boycott the event. They believe the Prime Minister has sidelined President Murmu by inaugurating the building himself, which they see as an assault on democracy. However, several other political parties that are not in alliance with the BJP, including the Biju Janata Dal, the YSR Congress, the BSP and the JDS, said that they will attend. Quick look at the big national stories. The Manipur government has relaxed curfew in parts of the state for 7 hours. As per the directive, people can step out of their residences, but only to buy essential items. Home Minister Amit Shah is scheduled to visit the state next week to try and resolve the ongoing ethnic crisis. Former Delhi Minister and AAP leader Satinder Jain has been granted interim bail of 6 weeks on medical grounds. Jain had been in Tihar after the ED arrested him in an alleged money laundering case last May. He was hospitalized earlier this week after reportedly collapsing in the bathroom. The National Tiger Conservation Authority has constituted an 11-member steering committee to review and advise on Project Cheetah. This after 6 cheetahs, including 3 cubs, died within a span of 2.5 months in the Kuno National Park. Rajesh Gopal, Secretary General of Global Tiger Forum, will serve as the chairman of the committee. Maharashtra's farmers began staring at huge losses about 3 months ago when unseasonal rain damaged a lot of the Rabi crop. The state government has promised compensation to every farmer, but this exercise is stuck at the survey stage. Santhe reports that farmers say they have little to fall back on to pay existing dues or get ready for the next season. Take a look.
Namdev Katkade depends on the 7-acre farm in Nandgaon in Maharashtra's Nashik district to support his family. But in the last 3 months, he has watched his hopes of repaying his 5 lakh rupee debt and paying for his 18-year-old daughter's education wash away in the rains.
I had sown maize in 2-acre land, onion in 2-acre land, and wheat and pearl millet in the rest of the land. The unseasonal rains damaged my maize and onion crops.
Like thousands of farmers in the region, Namdev has pinned his hopes on the state government to make good on its promise of compensation, but the wait continues. The state government's early estimates say that between March and April, crops spread over 70,000 hectares in Maharashtra have been damaged by unseasonal rains. Worst affected are the regions of Nashik, Dhule, Nandurbar, Jalgaon, Ahmednagar, Buldhana, Washim, and pockets along the Konkan belt. The state government announced in late April that it was releasing around 170 crore rupees in relief funds to farmers, but farmers say they are yet to see any of this money.
The government has not conducted any surveys. The state government is only making announcements, but farmers haven't received any compensation.
Farmers in Maharashtra are not alone. Unseasonal rains have damaged crops across Madhya Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan and Uttar Pradesh. And in all these states, farmers say the state promised compensation has been delayed. Experts estimate the overall revenue loss for farmers at over 13,000 crore rupees and say delaying compensation will mean the next sowing and harvest cycle could be affected. The Maharashtra government claims that the surveys to get damage estimates were delayed as the rains and hail continued to damage more crops. It says that with unseasonal rain slowing down, the exercise is close to completion and farmers should get their compensation soon. But for farmers, the clock is ticking. The next sowing season is just 2 to 3 weeks away, and with many farmers not having much of a financial safety net to fall back on, the rest of the season is not looking too good. With inputs from Babu Sheikh in Nashik, in Mumbai, Santya for CNBC-TV18.
Now, if you are scrolling through your Instagram or Facebook, you must have noticed a lot of homegrown brands. These brands operate entirely online, and one thing that sets them apart is the variety of their products. What's more interesting is that most of them are owned by women. Radhika Das brings you the story of Sirohi, a sustainable luxury brand that changed the lives of women artisans in northern India. Take a look.
I've grown up in a fairly privileged home, but seen 100% of women around me who were educated but were not allowed to work.
Growing up in Muzaffarnagar, Gauri Malik saw a dichotomy in the way she was raised compared to most women in her town, and she set out to change that. Gauri discovered several women who were skilled in craft but were not working due to societal barriers. Sirohi is an attempt to break these barriers. Sirohi is a sustainable luxury home decor brand whose products are woven by women artisans of Uttar Pradesh. The company is backed by the Skilled Samaritan Foundation. The foundation identifies women with expertise and equips them with tech-based design support to create varied design products.
That this was a time of digital age. I think Instagram was kind of booming. WhatsApp, every woman, while she might not be educated, knew how to use YouTube. She knew how to use WhatsApp. She had Instagram. She knew Google.
Life changed dramatically for Gauhar Fatma 5 years back when she became the first woman artisan from Uttar Pradesh, Muzaffarnagar to work for Sirohi. These carefully handcrafted baskets, box stands, charpai, handbags and chairs are put together by women who have honed their skills via digital tools. Gauhar was only the beginning. Today, around 750 artisans have followed her into weaving a financially independent future for themselves.
बॉक्स बनाना नहीं आता था पहले, फिर गौरी मैडम ने हमारे पास एक वीडियो भेजी थी, उससे हमने सब चीज बनानी सीख ली। नहीं फोन चलाने का सब पता है, देखो फोन तो सभी चलाए, छोटे छोटे बच्चे चला रहे हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। वैसे हम कुछ करें, सब काम सही से करना। काम मिला, अच्छा लगा हमें। पहले हम ऐसे थे कि भाई घर में बैठे रहते थे, बोरिंग से हो जाते थे, लेकिन अब ऐसा है कि काम करने से हमें पैसा भी आता है, हर हमारी जरूरतें पूरी होती है। पहले तो ऐसा था, हम यहाँ से भी करना पड़ता था कि भाई पैसे दे दो, ये है वो है, ये लाना है वो लाना है। अब हमें कोई नहीं जरूरत पड़ती, हम अपना काम खुद कर लेते हैं।
Instagram and Facebook are the top platforms helping Sirohi find its global audience. The brand grew tremendously during the COVID pandemic. Interestingly, a Meta report says it is seeing a strong trend of women entrepreneurs using its apps in India.
About 73% of Instagram business accounts founded by women have come in the last 3 years. The report also says 53% of all Facebook business pages are run by female admins in the last 3 years.
The brand has grown, I would say, 300% since we started in 2020 to here we are in 23. I remember starting with a small number of 7 lakhs of sales in our first year. And just because we cracked a few partnerships. And today, we're closing the year at almost 4 crores of net revenue. And the kind of sales avenues we've been able to explore, there have been different marketplaces that have come up who give you an opportunity to be able to sell your products. There is obviously the ability to advertise your products on different platforms. But of course, because so many online businesses have come up and, I think the space has become so crowded, it has also become extremely competitive.
Going online has been a boon for women that are confined by societal barriers. In the case of Sirohi, the women didn't need to leave town to find employment. In fact, a few of them have made land investments and are not dependent on the men in their family. Sirohi has proven that a business that is purely dependent on social media can be lucrative and that niche products will find a market. In Mumbai, Radhika Udas.
Well, the internet helping women break barriers. With that, it is time for us to wrap up this edition of India Business Hour. The news will continue here on CNBC-TV18. It promises to be a super Sunday. We've got, of course, the Parliament building inauguration and the IPL final. So stay tuned to CNBC-TV18 through the weekend. Plenty coming up.